Welcome to the very first Ozone basketball podcast, everybody. Rob Ogden and Tony Gerdeman here. Are you ready to talk some Buckeye hoops for the first time this year?
As ready as I can be in November, I guess.
Yeah, it's tough. We got to stop thinking about touchdowns and start thinking about basketball. Welcome to the very first Ozone basketball podcast, everybody. Rob Ogden and Tony Gerdeman here to talk a little Buckeye hoops. You ready for this, Tony?
Absolutely, I am so ready.
All right, good to hear. Buckeyes beat.
Are you ready?
I am ready. We watched the Buckeyes for the first time on Sunday. They beat Walsh 93-63 in an exhibition game. They will open the regular season Saturday afternoon at home against Morgan State, so we'll have to get our minds in basketball. No football this Saturday, so it's a noon game against Morgan State, so we'll be thinking about basketball on Saturday. The thing I was looking for going into the game on Sunday was who's going to score all the points for the Buckeyes, because Deshaun Thomas is no longer on the team. Last year, it seemed like he was the only guy on the team who could put the ball in the basket at sometimes. He's gone now, and so are his 20 points per game. He also led the team in minutes and rebounds and free throw percentage, I think. So big loss without Thomas. Where's that production going to come from?
It has to come from everybody. Everybody wants to point at Quentin Ross to be the guy, and he'll be starting in his spot. But it has to be more than Ross, because you're asking too much from one player.
Yeah, no, it definitely has to be. I mean, Mata said before Sunday's game, he said he was hoping to be more of a balanced team, and that's actually what they got Sunday. They got 15 from Ross and Lenzel Smith Jr. They each had 15, and then 3 other guys scored in double figures as well. So they had 5 guys in double figures. I'd say that's a pretty good start for what he was looking for.
Yeah, and everybody was playing piecemeal minutes anyway, so you're not really going to get a good look at what Mata ultimately wants. But the fact that they had enough guys to put the ball in the basket,
Yeah, that's definitely a good start. I mean, there was that game last year against Michigan State where Deshaun Thomas scored 28, the rest of the team scored 28, and they lost 59-56.
Yeah, that's
so that's they're not going to be able to do that this year. There's not going to be as we can tell right now, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a guy that's going to put up half the points for them every week like it was sometimes last year. And I'm not sure Mata really ever wanted it to be that way last year. Anyway,
what coach would
exactly
to have that much weight on one player and
to have to rely on one guy?
Exactly, and hoping you'd get something out of 4 or 8, 6, 7 other guys, and you can only count on one guy to continue to be productive for you. That's never a good thing, and the fact that they went as far as they did, with that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he said, and it was a good quote, he said he wants, if it was up, like his best team was 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and 10 points per game from his top 6 guys, which, I mean, that's ideal, and that's pretty close to what they had, because they had 15 from Ross and Smith, they had 14 from Kraft, I believe 13 from De La Valle, and 12 from Thompson, I believe was what it was. So, I mean, that's pretty close. So if they can get that, and I know it's Walsh, but if that's, kind of the blueprint, I guess, then, I mean, I think that's what Mata's looking for. But is that possible is the thing?
I think it's possible with this group to have, 5 double-figure scores every night, between 9 and 15 points. I don't know that it's possible to have the same 5 every night.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a number of guys who can score, but there's also a number of guys who can go quiet.
Yeah.
And that's what they're going to be fighting all year, I think.
And that seems like that's the biggest question is we know all these guys have streaks in them. Like we've seen Kraft do it, go for 25 in a game and hit a game winner. We've seen LaQuentin Ross do it, same exact thing in the tournament last year. We've even seen, Sam Thompson, go off in some games, and a game or two where Shannon Scott, had around 20 points or whatever. But are they able to put it together where all of them can play consistently on one night and not, having guys in your starting lineup, not taking nights off, but just, being invisible?
Yeah, I wonder if, how many players do they need to be consistent on a given night? Because you could still have 2 guys not give you what they normally give you, but as long as 3 others or 4 others are, you're going to be fine.
Right.
So I think with the inconsistent players that they have, guys who'll give you 18 one night and 4 the next, like Lenzel. And, I mean, they're all capable of it, because they've all done it,
Right.
Sam Thompson has done it, Aaron Kraft has done it. The key would be for them not to all have their down night the same night. But then I don't know that they even would, because they know when they're needed. They know when, okay, well, this guy's not doing it, so I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to do more. So they're all capable of picking it up.
That's always a question in any sport. When you have one guy who's clearly like the guy on your team, sometimes I know people take the perspective that maybe that kind of holds some of the other guys back because they don't feel like
they're deferring to him.
They defer to him, exactly. So, I mean, maybe they defer to Thomas last year, but if Thomas isn't there, then they feel like, okay, now it's my job. I've got to step up and do this. So, and I don't know if it's that or if it's just that, they couldn't do that, like they weren't capable of. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Maybe some of these guys, without that single score, step up. It's kind of similar to after Evan Turner left, everybody thought, well, Evan Turner's their entire team. He was player of the year. Next year they come back. They've got Diebler and Leidy and Solinger and so many Buford. Yeah. So they had like so many more guys that none of them were Evan Turner player of the year, but the parts were greater.
They were all very good at what they did.
Right.
They all knew their roles and their capacities, and they all knew where they should be, and they were there.
And as a whole of a team, they were a much better team than they were even with Turner the year before. So I don't know if we could see something similar to that.
That's true.
The biggest difference between that team is they had Solinger in there.
Mm-hmm.
This team, I mean, what can we expect out of the post presence?
I think you hope, like, if they could get 10 and 8 from Amir Williams, like they 10 rebounds and 8 points like they did against Walsh, they'll take that now and be happy and go singing and whatnot. But I don't know that you'll get, if they could get 8 rebounds and 6 points a game, I think they'd even take that. You just don't know. I mean, he talks, he says the right things. He's been working, and obviously Mata's going to make him work.
Right.
And when they talk about going small, there's a reason they want to go small, and one of those reasons is because they don't feel good about going big.
Right. Does that work in the Big Ten though? Because there's so many good big men who will dominate you down in the post, and it's so physical down there. We know that you can't have somebody who's soft down in the post, who can't play defense, and who can't get you a bucket down there when you need one.
No, and that's why he has to play bigger than he is, than he has at this point. We're talking to Amir Williams, because like you said, he's going to get pounded. They're going to test him. He's going to have to earn respect, because I don't think he's done it to this point. He's had flashes, but all Big Ten players have flashes.
Right.
So I mean, he's going to have to do it consistently, night in and night out, or else he's not going to get the respect of the refs either.
Right.
That's a big thing, and he's going to have 2 fouls on him in the first 5 minutes, and then what do you bring in Trey McDonald, or do you go small right away? And they don't want to do it all the time. They just want to do it as a change of pace, and you can't do it all the time in the Big Ten.
We know, like, we've seen most everybody's ceiling. Like, we've seen what they can do. They don't do it consistently. We've seen what Lenzel can do. We've seen what LeQuentin Ross can do. We've seen what Kraft can do when they're at their best. We haven't seen Amir Williams. Maybe if we have seen him at his best, then that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, because what have we seen that would be that ceiling? It's getting a putback here or there, or blocking 2 shots in a row, or getting 7 or 8 rebounds. I mean, that's not McDonald's All-American level stuff there.
Hamburger All-American. Definitely not. I mean, but if that's all they're going to get from him, I think they're going to really struggle, because I mean, you need more of a post presence to play in the Big Ten than what Amir Williams has been.
You need a post presence, and I mean, is he even a post presence at this point?
Yeah.
I mean, right now he's a center. Is he a post presence?
I don't think he's much of a presence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Thad Mona said on Sunday that he's seen improvement from those guys, from Amir and Trey McDonald's both. So we'll see. That'll be one of the biggest things to watch, because if he can play, that'll be huge for them. I mean, that takes them from somewhere in the middle of the pack of the Big Ten to competing for the Big Ten championship.
Definitely, yeah. He could be the guy that puts them over the top, considering all the parts that they have. Like you're talking about the parts before with Diebler and Leidy and all those guys. These Buckeyes have those parts, but do they have that the cog in the middle that where there's no glaring weakness?
Right. Last week on the show, you asked me who I thought the most valuable player, not named Aaron Kraft, would be. I quickly said LeQuentin Ross, and I said that I almost thought Ross could be more valuable than Kraft.
I think you did say it, actually.
Okay, I did say it. But I guess my thinking there was, Aaron Kraft is great, but the Buckeyes aren't going to be good if Aaron Kraft is their best player.
Well, here's the thing, and Aaron Kraft does so many things that don't involve, his own point total and
that's true.
Things of that nature, and even in the intangible stuff. But you do need somebody who is competing for the MVP spot.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I would agree. If he's your show, then
if Aaron Craft is the show, they're not going to be that good of a basketball team. If you have LaQuinton Ross out there, who can give you 15, 20 points a game and is a threat to the defense, then you also have Craft.
Yeah.
Now you've got the makings of a good basketball team. But if Aaron Craft is everything for this team, I don't think that's going to be a good thing. Nothing against Aaron Craft. Aaron Craft is great, but he's not enough.
Yeah, and considering he's one of those guys who, like he only took 5 shots against Walsh. I mean, he could do that against an Indiana or a Michigan State just because, you know what, that's just the way things are going right now.
Right.
And he started slow last year when, he'd get into the paint, he'd get his shots blocked, so then he would just, stop shooting. And, so he goes up and down with his offensive game as much as anybody. And so that's, yeah, I'm with you. He can't be the whole show, definitely.
Yeah, it's going to need to be more than a one-man show. The thing with Ross is his defense. I mean, he can't be a liability out there. Because he has to play because they need to rely on him for his scoring, but he can't be a liability out there when he's on defense.
They also need him just because he's taller than 6'6".
Yeah.
And he's their second biggest guy basically. That's going to be on the floor, because you won't have Trey McDonald and Amir Williams out there together. So he's always going to be the second tallest guy unless he's the tallest guy. So. And
what do they? We talked about going small, but when McDonald picked up 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes yesterday or Sunday. And Amir's vulnerable to that as well. When both guys are on the bench with 2 fouls, how do they stack up? Well,
and I think that's where a guy like Mark Loving could be involved a little bit. Because he's 6'7", he's 6'8", he's a smart player, which I think Thad likes.
Yeah.
And I think he pulled down like 9 rebounds.
Yeah, he had 9 rebounds. I think he played 21 minutes.
Yeah, so and he can shoot. He was only 1 for 6 and 3 for 7 from the free throw line, but he's a shooter.
Yeah.
He's just a well-rounded, smart player who might be able to pick up some slack there.
Can you do that in the Big Ten? Can you play that way?
Play what way?
With Mark Loving, with that lineup, with Mark Loving being your...
No, I don't think so, because he's not much different than LaQuinton Ross or Deshaun Thomas in that sense of playing 5, playing out of position. I'm just talking as a stopgap if you don't want to play Ross there.
If you have to, if they get in, if McDonald and Amir Williams are getting in foul trouble, that's not going to be good. They're not going
to... And you think they seem like they will be getting into foul trouble.
It does seem like that. But going back to Ross, Mata said after Saturday's game he was a little disappointed with the way Ross played defensively. He felt he needed to be more locked in and everything. But he had his hand in a cast. His right hand had been in a cast for the past week leading up to the game, Mata said. So he had been playing left-handed in practice. So with that being considered, Mata said he thought he had a pretty good game offensively. Overall, he said he played okay, but kind of a funny thing, Mata said that his hands seemed to get quicker a lot better once Mata told him he'd be playing all-time defense in practice with the cast on his hands. So it was just, I guess, some inflammation in his right hand. Mata didn't seem to know a lot. Or
shooting too much?
Shooting too much must have been it.
Shooter's hand?
Yeah, shooter's hand. So we'll keep our eye on that, but it doesn't seem like anything that's going to keep him out or anything.
I figure if you're playing against Walsh, you're okay to play, right?
Yeah, you're okay. He could have played left-handed against Walsh.
That's true.
What about this team's identity? Because there's no big-time scorer like there was. They don't have a top star-studded recruiting class or a huge post presence or anything like that. So what is this team's identity? Is it defense?
Yeah, I think that's a good area because, with Shannon Scott and Aaron Craft and Lenzel Smith, they have 3 of the better defensive guards.
Yeah.
And I don't think Sam Thompson is a slouch at all. And he could guard, maybe 4 spots. Not quite like David Lighty, but he's athletic enough to take on a 4 here and there. Maybe in some help defense. But I think for the backcourt they're fine. We just don't know the front court what that defense will be. And I think Amir Williams should average 2 blocks a game.
He had
at least. I think
he had 5.
Yeah, 5 against Walsh.
And 3 steals.
He should definitely just by being down there and being 6'10", 6'11", should have 2 blocks a game. And if he doesn't, that's a disappointment.
And that's the thing too. We know this team's athletic. Maybe more athletic than any team Thad has had in a long time. I mean, this team should be able to run.
Well, if you look, like, Ross is more athletic than Deshaun Thomas, and everybody is more athletic than Jared Solinger.
And everybody's more athletic than Evan Ravenel.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they've got a ton of athletes on the court. So you just have to start putting it to good use.
I mean, will this team try to push the pace? And, they scored a lot of fast break points they had 25 points off the fast break on Sunday. Is that going to be, part of their identity, scoring points that way if they can't get them on offense?
I think Mata set the tone when he put Shannon Scott in the starting lineup, because that's his job, to push the pace. And, Thad Mata said, a few weeks ago when we talked to him that Amir Williams and Trey McDonald are going to have to run or else they're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
So he wants to push the pace. And, I mean, if you're putting Shannon Scott in there instead of, Sam Thompson,
right?
Then that's telling me that we're going to run.
They had 29 points off turnovers too. I mean, I think that could be a big area, going back to the fast break points and everything. If they can force those turnovers and get those points in transition, that'll really bolster, what they don't get on offense.
Yeah, exactly. It's free points.
Yeah,
so
definitely. And you mentioned the starting lineup. Mata, he said that the reason that Scott started, at least this is how he put it, that he had a great week of practice, so that's why he said he started. But he said it's not something that's definite. It's not written in stone that it could be a different lineup week to week. He's probably referring to just Thompson and Scott. I don't know. I don't see any.
Yeah, I think it's those six that
Yeah,
I think you have six starters basically.
Yeah. He even said it was kind of funny that he doesn't like the fireworks and they turn out the lights and have the dry ice and everything to announce the starting lineups. He said he doesn't like that because he doesn't think it's that big of a deal who the starters are. So, we'll see how much he shuffles with that. It doesn't, like he said, though, I don't think it really matters because this team's going to be, could they be 10 guys deep?
I still want to see what Della Valle can do because I'm not convinced he's a guy who's going to play 15 or 18 minutes. I think he's, maybe a 5 or 7 minute guy.
That's what I was wondering, too.
Because, sure, it's great he can shoot the three and stuff, and they need that. But I just don't know how much he's going to actually play. Yeah, because you have to take somebody off the bench, off the court to put him out there.
Right. And the Urban Meyer saying right there,
right.
Who are you going to take off? But he had 21 minutes on Sunday, 13 points. He was the fourth highest leading scorer on the team out of the 5 guys in double figures. 21 minutes. Everybody got almost up near 20 minutes, but that's still a lot for a guy who came up only in mop-up time last year,
Now, I would be surprised if he plays 21 minutes in any single game this year.
Okay, well, I was going to ask you that, but...
I'm sorry. Go ahead and ask.
Well, no, I was saving it for later because you're going to, I was going to ask you all the questions at once, but I guess I'll ask you that now, but you already answered. I was going to say 10 minutes or more for De La Valle this season.
On the average, what was his average last year?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think it had been 10 minutes per
he
game.
Averaged 7.2 minutes last year. So, gosh, I didn't think he'd average that much. So I would say he would go over 10 minutes
over
then.
10. How about 15? He had 21 on Sunday.
No, I don't think he would go over 15. Amir was only 16.5 minutes a game last year. So.
Yeah. Thad historically uses 7, 8-man rotations and kind of ignores the rest of the guys on his bench.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but 9 guys played on Sunday, but the freshman Cam Williams didn't play. Mm-hmm. He's out with mono. He was out for a month, Thad said, and he's kind of behind. So
yeah, Thad Mata doesn't really redshirt players, and I don't know that Cam Williams would redshirt.
It's Ohio State. They don't redshirt here.
Well,
Urban Meyer will tell you they do not redshirt. Okay.
But I don't see him play. I haven't seen him play. I don't know his game.
Yeah.
But I don't see him playing more than Della Valle, and I don't see Della Valle playing all that much.
So you think it's more like an 8-man rotation?
Always. Yeah. Because there are some really good players here. So it's
right.
You're gonna have to take somebody off the bench.
Who's the first guy off the bench other than the Sam Thompson Scott combo?
It would be once Amir Williams gets his 2 fouls.
McDonald, yeah. Exactly. And then after that, I think Mark Loving.
Exactly.
He played 22 minutes, which is I was a little surprised for a guy who never played a college game in his career to come in and get 22 minutes in the first game.
But Thad might have talked about how he's been really impressed with Loving. He's further ahead than he expected.
Right.
So, there's always a place for a guy who is, 6'7" or 6'8", can shoot, knows where to be on the court, can grab a rebound. So I think I would be surprised if he's not part of the rotation just because, who is LaQuinton Ross's backup?
Yeah.
At 4.
Yeah.
it's Loving is the only guy.
Right. Yeah, so you're thinking more like an 8-man rotation with De La Valle maybe getting some minutes in there.
Because he's the fifth guard? If you're calling Sam Thompson a guard, if we're talking that way, because I know he's a crowd favorite. I don't know that there's a lot of room for him.
Right. And Mata said, and he said after the game, I'm no longer the player that just can shoot threes. I'm a more complete player now. And
well, that's fine, but he was 3 for 4 from the field, and they were all threes. So.
The numbers don't lie.
But he did take 4 free throws, but.
And he sunk all of them, so he's a complete player now. He's got the free throws, the threes.
And I'm not trying to be harsh on him. It's just, we've seen it here before. And, he'll play more next year when maybe there's more opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's get into a few questions here. So, with this team, I think we've seen LaQuinton Ross make a game-winning shot. We've seen Aaron Craft make a game-winning shot. We know a couple of other guys might be capable, but if the game's on the line, who's got the ball in their hands?
Well, when we had the media day a couple weeks ago, I asked, all of the candidates, Ross and Shannon Scott. I don't think I asked Shannon Scott, but I asked Ross and Kraft and Lenzel and Sam Thompson, who would take that last-second game-winning shot, and they all said that they would, and they all wanted the ball. And then I asked Thad, and he said, well, Ross and Kraft are the two most recent, so he would defer to one of those two. So he said it's a good thing that you have that many players who want the ball.
Yeah.
But it's also a bad thing because you're going to have players who are disappointed when they're not being the ones called for.
Yeah. But you got to look into reality at some point and see who gives you the best chance to win. If you're an Ohio State fan, who do you want? Whose hands do you want the ball in? If there's a second left and you need a shot and you're down by a bucket.
I think at that point it comes down to who has the hot hand.
Yeah. I guess it'll be interesting to see what we see out of Kraft this year. Last year, I don't think I ever would have wanted it in his hand at the end. I know he sunk that shot against Iowa State, but I don't know. He's a scorer, but he's not a shooter.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because when I was talking to Lenzel about that, he said that if he's the one that pulls the rebound down, he doesn't know that he's going to give it up to anybody else.
Yeah.
And I asked Sam Thompson, what he would do, and he said, he would do what Thad Matta said, and I asked him if he would shake Thad Matta off. He's like, no, I would never do that. Kraft, however, said he thinks he has enough sway with Thad Matta that he could shake him off and go against what he wanted and do his own thing. So, it's going to be interesting to see. I wonder how many of those situations they'll actually have.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Just real quickly about Thompson. What's his role this year? Because last year he was just, he shot the three, which I think he led the team in 3-point percentage last year, and he made alley-oop dunks. Does he do anything else this season?
Well, that's what he worked on in the offseason, was putting the ball on the floor and not just creating for himself, but for others. And, we saw the improvement that he made because the last offseason, his deal was, I'm going to become a better shooter, and he did that.
Right.
This offseason, I want to become a more complete player, putting the ball on the court. So I think he's so athletic, and you can see the talent that he has.
Yeah.
So, if he's setting his mind to something and he's working on it, you would assume that it would come through in his play.
Yeah.
And he came off the bench, but he played, the third most minutes against Walsh.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know if he's the sixth man or what, but I think he's going to be very, very involved.
And it's interesting because you see the talent, you see the athleticism, and you hear Thad Matta say that if he can put it all together, he could be, this is Thad's words, one of the best players in Ohio State basketball history. Which is crazy to think this guy's a junior who comes off the bench, and yet Thad thinks he could be one of the greatest players in Ohio State basketball history. He's not talking about Ross or Kraft or any of the guys that you think as the better players on the team. He's talking about the sixth man, Sam Thompson.
It's interesting because when Evan Turner was here, you could see what he would become, and you could see the sort of thing with Sam Thompson. But Sam Thompson's like a year and a half behind Evan Turner's development. I don't know that he'll ever be I don't think he'll ever be what Evan Turner ended up being, but you can see that he takes these steps, and you can see that he's becoming better each time out. And what he could be is, I agree with that. It's just I don't know that he'll have enough time here to reach that.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see just how the points play out, how things work offensively. I guess let's make a couple of predictions. Where do you see this team finishing the Big Ten? They were picked third behind Michigan State and Michigan. What's your take?
I think you always have to side with Thad Matta in this. If everybody's going to pick him third, then I'm going to pick him second. If people are out there doubting him, I think he's got enough of a track record that, that's not always smart. So I'll go second. I don't know who's going to be first, but if people are going to say third, I'm going to say second.
I think third is fair.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
Second is reasonable. I think it's possible they could finish first. I think it'd be a little bit unlikely at this point, just because the way that Michigan State looks. They look like they're a pretty good team, but I don't think there's much difference between Michigan and Ohio State at this point.
Yeah.
As far as
like Michigan State, I mean, who matches up with Adrian Payne? I think
that's a guy Ohio State could have had too.
Yeah.
He's from Ohio. They had Sullinger.
I don't know what to tell you, Rob.
Just saying. But yeah, I think third is.
They tried to get him.
I don't think they did, honestly.
Yeah.
I think they could have had him if they wanted him. I don't know.
Well, he's not good enough to play at Ohio State anyway. Buckeye fans know that.
But yeah, I think third is reasonable. I think second is reasonable. They'll be somewhere in there, assuming that some of these guys take the progression, take the steps that we expect them to take.
And even if they end up fourth or fifth, I mean, Thad Matta has shown that, we still have the Big Ten tournament.
Oh, yeah.
So.
If they end up fourth or fifth, it'll be because Aaron Kraft is the only good player on the team. We'll see, though. Getting into some other predictions, we got a little bit of over-under we can play here. Let's see. They finished 29-8 last season. Over or under 29 wins this season. They lost a few bad games last year.
They did, and
but they had deep tournament runs. So
I might go over on that because the schedule is always terrible.
Oh, it's awful.
They do have to go to Marquette, but I think I'll go over 29.
And I mean, come on, if they hadn't canceled the game against Marquette last year, maybe they would have had more.
Yeah.
So you're going over?
I'm going to go over, maybe by 1.
All right. Well, I'm going under slightly. I just think I don't know. I mean, that team, they won the Big Ten tournament. They went to the Elite Eight, and that's a lot of wins.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm going slightly under.
You caught me off guard.
I'm sorry. I should have.
I could count these out and tell you, but you put me on the spot.
Well,
I'll go over.
We're testing your true knowledge here now.
It's football season, Rob.
I know. Okay. Next question. 2 players finished in double figures last season. Thomas and Kraft. Thomas had 20. Kraft had 10. Over under 2.5 players in double figures by the end of the season.
Well, see, this is the part. This is my whole thing with the Buckeyes is, are they going to be consistent enough scoring wise? Because I think there'll be, quite a few players around 8.5 to 11 points, and I think we believe Ross will be over. Kraft I think has to be.
I think Kraft will be.
And
he does have to be.
Yeah, and then is it Lenzel or because even he was at 9.2 last year. He should be better than that.
Amir?
Sam Thompson. Amir, no.
No?
I think if you get 7 or 8 points out of Amir, you're going to be okay with that.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Sam Thompson, if he's going to be as good as he can be, then he has to be 11 or 12 points, and that's not even very much.
Yeah.
So I'll go over, but I don't like that question
because it was tough.
I don't like tough questions.
I'll go over too. I think they have to be over. I think if it's under, it'll be a little bit.
If it's under, then if it's under, everybody better be at like 9.7 points per game.
Yeah. 70.2 points per game last season as a team. Over under 70 points per game this season.
I think they'll push more because you couldn't necessarily push all the time if you want to get Deshaun Thomas involved in the paint. I think there's going to be less need to involve people in the paint because who's it going to be?
Yeah.
I mean, LaQuentin Ross is working a little bit on it, but he's not a post guy that you're necessarily looking forward to, and you'd rather have him on the wing running anyway.
Right.
So I'll go over, but man, they should have scored more last year. So yeah, I'll go over.
Yeah, I'll go over. I mean, they were like we said that 28 points for Thomas, 28 points for the rest of the team. Like those type of games. That game against Illinois, they got destroyed. That game against Wisconsin where they scored like 40-something points.
Yeah. I mean, you're still going to have that here and there in the Big Ten. It always happens, but
plus,
you can't have more than 1 or 2 of those.
I mean, come on. Morgan State, American, Wyoming, North Florida, Central Connecticut, Bryant, North Dakota State, Delaware, Louisiana, Monroe. Come on, they can put up some points against those teams.
They should. At least 75.
You would think. I mean, free Big Macs at 80 points this year.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
So they're going to shoot for those Big Macs. Last season, Evan Ravenel was the Buckeyes' leading scorer in the post, averaging 4.9 points per game. Over under 4.9 points per game for Amir Williams this season.
I will go over that. Maybe like 6.5 points a game.
Yeah,
what do
I
you
can
think?
see that. I can see that. I'll go over as well. I think if it's under, it's really bad.
Oh man, if it's under, then Ross better have 20 and Kraft better have 15.
Lenzel better have 15.
Yeah.
All right. Over under 1.5 first team All Big Ten selections at the end of the season. Kraft was a first team preseason. Did they get one more? Is basically what the question
So
is.
you're asking if LeQuentin Ross is going to be All Big Ten,
Or Amir Williams, or Amadeo De La Valle,
or Andrew Goldstein,
or Andrew Goldstein. You never know.
No, gosh. I'll say under 1.5.
They had 2 last year, right?
Yeah.
I believe because Kraft made it on one of the teams. I'm not sure media and
Right.
coaches. I don't remember which one it was, but it'll count either way.
Yeah, I'll go under.
You go under. It'll be tough. I mean, Michigan and Michigan State each had 2 on the preseason team. I mean, I think it's reasonable to think that Ohio State could get 2.
I think it's reasonable to think that happens. I think maybe Kraft will be Ohio State's representative.
Yeah.
Like an honorary. You won. So many games again, and you're in second or first or third place again. You deserve a spot. We'll give it to Aaron Kraft.
Right. All right. Speaking of Aaron Kraft,
Where are you going? Under? Over?
I think I'm going under. I think I'll go with 1. Speaking of Aaron Kraft, 12 points per game for Aaron Kraft. Over under. He averaged 10 last season.
I'll go under, but I'm thinking like 11.5. Because
11.5. That's a tough one, actually.
Yeah, it is. I agree, because you think, well, that's just 2 more points than he had last year, but I mean, I just don't. He's just not that type of player. I mean, he should have been that type of player by now.
Yeah.
So no, I think people would have expected that from him last year, and he didn't do it. So
yeah, I'm gonna go over just to be different. Just over 12, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, he's got to score more than he did last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna have to, unless you have Ross putting up.
But he started
18
really
numbers.
slowly last year, so maybe if he's just stays consistent all year and gets his 12 or 13, then you'll be all right.
And I already asked you over under 10 minutes for De La Valle. You said over. You said under 15. So you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to that same answer from 10 minutes ago.
Okay, good. I'm glad you didn't change your mind. I'll go.
You had a while to think about this.
I know. I wasn't thinking about it though. I was like doing this podcast thing. I'll go. I'm gonna go under.
Under 10 minutes?
Under 10.
All right.
Just under. Just because you said over, so I gotta go under.
Okay, I got
Plus, you said you didn't think he was gonna play, and then you went over. So.
I mean, he only played 19 games last year.
Yeah, I know.
So you know what's going to happen. He's going to play in more games but fewer minutes.
Yeah.
We should have gone total minutes. Dang it.
Yeah, we should have. Oh, well. Well, that's all I got. You got anything off the top of your head?
Who will lead the Buckeyes in three-point shooting?
That's a good question. Yeah, we're talking percentage?
Percentage. No, percentage.
Okay, we're talking percentage. I think you got to go Thompson just because of what he's shown in the past.
I will go with De La Valle because he will take fewer attempts. And that is a smart pick by me.
You're cheating.
Hey, I asked the question. How do you like it?
Who will take more relevant, meaningful? Who will make more of their meaningful attempts? And De La Valle won't have any meaningful attempts, which means he won't make any. No, I think De La Valle will be a more impactful player than he was last year. In all seriousness, but okay. So what? So you think De La Valle leads? What do you think he shoots? He shot like 38 last year.
Yeah, I think he could do about 43, 44 this year, 44%.
You think that leads the team?
Yeah, considering 40 led it last year.
Yeah.
And I think I'm saying Sam Thompson will be around 42.7. So if you want to go ahead and write that one down.
42.7?
Yeah, for the year.
Yeah, we'll keep that on.
So go ahead.
Keep that on record, 42.7. All right. Any
Ross will be at about 38.9 because he's going to take some bad shots.
Yeah, but you'll have to live with that.
Yep. No, I agree. Oh, crap. He was at 38.9 last year.
Wonder where you got that number.
He'll go with 39.0. A grand improvement.
Any other bold predictions you want to make for this season?
No, because I'm already upset with my
Braxton Miller
predictions.
Are you already upset with your Braxton Miller going for 300 yards?
That is not my fault, and he was on pace, so,
Yeah.
We're talking basketball now, Rob.
Right. Before we wrap this up, just looking at the schedule here, I mentioned all those games that are going to be really boring, but there are some decent games on the schedule. They got Maryland in the Big Ten ACC Challenge this year, which will be the last time they play them in the Big Ten ACC Challenge, and the first of many years they'll play them in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
It'll be different. It'll be new.
As far as football, it kind of is not that cool, but in basketball, it'll be fun to have Maryland in the Big Ten, I think. So that game's December 4th. Big game against the Ohio Bobcats on November 12th. So
that'll be the first TV game for the Buckeyes. So
yeah, that'll be the second game of the year.
Probably the first TV game ever for Ohio University.
Oh, wow. Man, take shots. All right. Notre Dame in Madison Square Garden. That'll be fun. 4 days before Christmas. And then
everybody there looking at the lights and you're just trying to go to a basketball game.
I know. You gonna come?
No.
Why?
I hate New York.
You hate New York?
I hate it.
Why do you hate New York?
Because there are too many people there. It takes 2 hours to get anywhere. You can't do anything.
Have you ever been to Madison Square Garden?
No, I was going to try to go there.
Game in Madison Square Garden.
Maybe, but that's in New York. The thing is to do, you park like outside of the state, and then you take the train into Madison Square Garden.
I've done that before.
So you never actually have to.
I've literally done that.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
And that's
You'll probably do it again, actually.
Okay. That's actually about as good as it gets for the non-conference schedule. And the Big Ten should be good again this year. I don't know that they'll be quite to the level they were last year. They lost a lot of guys to the NBA. I don't know if Indiana lost a lot.
Yeah.
Michigan lost a lot. Even the Buckeyes lost.
Do you think Michigan's overrated?
See, I thought they were overrated last year going into the season, and then
they lost some bad games, and everybody was beating up on them, but they closed well. But number 7 right now, and they don't even have McGarry right now.
Yeah.
Imagine that team last year without Trey Burke. That's sort of what you've got now.
Yeah.
And they would have been lost. So I think it's more of a rating of where they'll be in March, because I don't think there's any way they're number 7 right now.
You gotta like what Beeline's doing there, though.
Oh, absolutely.
That program was nothing. And
yep.
Other than that, though, Big Ten will be fun, like it is pretty much every year. But
except for the games against Wisconsin, those games are never fun. They're just ugly.
Yeah, at Wisconsin, February 2nd.
At least it's a noon game, so you can go right back to sleep.
Yeah, there's that. All right. Anything else you want to talk about on this basketball podcast? I think we've run a little long. We can wrap this baby up.
No, I'm just, I'm looking forward to the big game against Morgan State.
Yeah. We'll have that to discuss. And let's see, the big game against the Bobcats is next Tuesday.
Oh, so we can do a preview podcast.
We will do a preview, and I have all the insider information on them. So that'll be good. So stay tuned for that. We'll wrap this up. Next week we'll be back with basketball, and we'll be back with football again. So until then, peace out, everybody.
All right, see you.